Here everyone, so currently my computer, now it loading, now that, anyway guys, my computer's frozen, so I can't touch anything, it keeps freezing, my computer's being really slow today. So recently I hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm going to be uploading this when I hit over that goal, just so that way people don't go, I'm gonna unsubscribe and get her under 1,000 to be funny, or something like that, or if someone just wants to unsubscribe. But so I am gonna upload something before this. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead and record this because this is probably gonna be the one chance that I have to record this, and I just want to get it over with. For my sub special, now I know I like hype this up to probably be more than what it is, but I'm going to be telling you guys my life story. Now turn my mic volume up a little bit so you can hear me and I'm not having to talk so loud, but I'm gonna be telling you guys my life story pretty much from the beginning of my life when my mom gave birth to me up until where I am at in this very day and age, because hitting 1,000 subscribers might not seem like a lot to some people, but to me it is a big deal. To my little child, to the little child me that is still deeply in my heart, it is a very big deal. So I'm gonna immediately get this rolling. So I was born on September 26th, 2005. And this day, the day I was born, will also be one of the first actual death experiences for both me and my mother. There were complications during her attempt to give birth to me. I was stuck, my arm was raised up, and they could not push me out past my shoulders. Or like it was only my head sticking out, and my mom was actively losing a lot of blood. She was in a lot of pain. And I'll be honest, I don't think the doctors handled this very well. And of course, doctors were actually telling her it's going to have to be you or your child. And my mom was like, nope. Nope, actually, you are going to do everything you can, because if it's both of us, it's neither of us. So, which honestly, I think that was a good decision, because if I grew up without my mom at all, even though me and my mom have had issues, if I grew up without her at all, that would have mentally messed with me. I think it is horrible to grow up knowing that your mom died while giving birth to you. Anyway, but before they were able to get her, or I think this was during the C-section, I think, or right before it, when I was still attached to the umbilical cord, both of us started coding blue. My mom stopped breathing, and I know, like, a lot of you might hate me for saying this because a lot of you aren't religious, but to me, it's nothing short of a miracle. We both came back, and we were both fine, and they were able to perform a successful C-section with no more complications, and I was born into the world at 7:30 p.m. Growing up, I grew up in outside of a very, very small town in the USA. I went to a very small school to a point where there was only about one class per grade. And let me tell you, when I walked the halls of that school after I graduated, I realized how small it was. But yeah, it was K through 5 only. There was one teacher, one classroom for every single grade, K through 5. And elementary school is where I would meet one of my closest friends, whose current name is George. George and I actually go way back to first grade, where I first met him. And we had a friend group of, it was me, him, and a bunch of other, just outcast, nerdy kids. We all played Minecraft together and just Xbox. We talk about video games all the time and things like that. We go way back to the first grade, and that's when we started becoming friends, but we really got close around the 5th grade, and that's when I started, we had sleepovers. Well, he wouldn't stay the night at my house, but like I'd stayed the night at his house. George is one of my trans friends, by the way, so this was pre-transition, just to clarify for any of you out there that are weird. But me and him grew up together, and we still talk to this day. And even though he moved away for a while to Colorado, he eventually moved back to live with his grandparents, and we still talk every single day, even though now I am not in the same state anymore. I'm in North Carolina. But anywho, growing up, of course, me hanging around those kids, I wasn't really bullied that much in elementary school, but throughout middle school and high school is when things started to get rough for me a little bit. In middle school, I kind of changed who I hung out with. I wasn't really around the nerdy art kids anymore. I was in a very small elementary school, so I stuck with who I knew from my elementary school, and I ended up meeting new people. I met a new friend through a friend my mom had, her daughter, and we stuck together through middle school, but I was still, bullied by some people and certain people. I'm not gonna drop names. I'm not gonna go too much into that. It's just stupid middle school stuff. High school is where I kind of draw the line though, because again, I graduated in 2023, even though that was 3 years ago. The way you act in high school really just kind of shapes you to who you are going to be as an adult. And to me, you have the opportunity to change that, which I highly doubt any of them have changed. But just to say, I am not friends with a lot of people anymore. I don't really talk to a lot of people that I went to high school with anymore. But that doesn't mean they bullied me, but I did get picked on a lot. Some people were cool with me, some people... There was just this one particular girl who actually tried to start some really strange rumor about me, and from what my one friend told me, nobody believed her, and everyone kind of thought she was stupid, which she is. But anyway, going back to middle school, it was rough for me. My parents got divorced about 2017. My dad had every other weekend visitation with me, including once or 2 weeks in the summer. And then I think they would alter spring break and stuff like that, and like fall breaks and like breaks like that. And also they would change the way with the holidays as well, because my family, sometimes when they do the holidays, they do it on different days instead of the exact same day, so that way my other family members can be with, all their family. We tried to make it work out. But that was tough for me, them getting divorced. And also, like right in the middle of them getting divorced, I actually got my dog, Ziggy, my longtime pal, and someone, or my dog, who I quite literally probably would have died without. He's 9 years old now, and he was actually born in April of 2017. And I got him when he was 5 months old in October. Anyway, my parents' divorce was a long and grueling process that lasted the span of over a year before it was finalized, and all of that. And this is where my life really started to go downhill, as well as my mental state. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had my own problems with both my parents, but I love them both and I cherish them both deeply. And I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I love and cherish them both deeply. I did have issues with them both, and for the most part, my issues with my dad were easily resolved. He owned up. He knows how to own up. He lets me talk. He hears me out. My mom's not quite the same, but again, I still love and cherish both my parents deeply. And with the divorce, of course, my dad would get me every other weekend. We would end the divorce agreement. I had to stay. We had to, he was living with a friend. My mom did not like said friend. And so the judge made an agreement saying that when he gets me every other weekend, it has to be at a grandparent's house. So, of course, and my dad wasn't with anybody for a while, but then when he was, he would just take me to their house because honestly, the agreement was really stupid. It was like, oh, you have to be at the grandparents' house and she has to have her own room to sleep in. And it's like, how, like, that doesn't make sense because both my grandparents on my dad's side only have one guest bedroom. Where's my dad gonna sleep? The floor? But yes, we did stay at my grandparents' house. We'd stay at my grandma's house sometimes. We would stay with my Papa JR. And my uncle, Jeremy, lived with my Papa JR. And he got his kid, Maddie, on the same weekends that my dad had me. So actually, for the most part, we would stay over with them. We would stay at my grandma sometimes and like visit my grandma because I was like, hey, I want to go see my grandma. But for the most part, we would stay over at my Papa JR Nana's house, and we would be with my Uncle Jeremy and my cousin Matt, my little cousin Maddie. And I honestly will come on here to admit that being influenced like I was back then and manipulated like I was back then, I had a very unreasonable dislike toward my dad and most of his family because my mom and my granny would both try to paint all of them as these horrible, evil people, and for a while I believed them because growing up, actually, my dad worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. And I wasn't really around him, and they would argue a lot, just stuff like that. So I just went with my mom's word for it, but I finally started realizing things and connecting dots and realizing some stuff did not make sense. And this is why I say my life went to absolute shit in high school because when I was a freshman in October 2019, months after I was first sexually assaulted, my uncle had passed away. And my uncle was the most loving and caring person on this planet, and him. Now, of course, I had lost other people in my lifetime. My pa died when I was only 4 years old, and my pa was a big part of my life too. He was my biggest fan, but obviously when you're so young, someone's death just doesn't really stick with you that well. I didn't understand what was going on. I do miss my pa very much too. And I'm getting off track here because I'm very disorganized with this story and I'm jumping, sorry. But I miss my pa dearly, and he was one of my biggest supporters ever, and he would always, whenever he could, he would drive his golf cart down, because my mom's family always lived on the same land. Whenever he could, he would always drive his golf cart down to my house, stop at the front door, and my mom would go greet him, and he'd say, I want to ask Jasmine a question. And I'd come out of my room and I'm, little dramatic 3-year-old, what? And he's like, do you want to go for a ride on the golf cart? And I was like, I'd always say yes. I'd never say no to a ride. I think I may have before, but, just your 3-year-old toddler being a toddler butthole. But, and of course, I remember my granny always hand washed dishes. Her dishwasher was like never used. She always hand washed things. Besides clothes. But I would take the suds from the dish soap that would form from the water, and I would run to the living room where my pa would be sitting in his chair, and I would just rub soap on his arm. And there's also a video of me and my pa playing the harmonica together. And whenever he'd stop, I'd stop and I would just look over at him. And I love watching those videos. But anyway, back to my main story. I had to go back a little bit. Sorry, I'm backtracking. But yeah, my uncle passed away, which hit me the hardest. Because, of course, I was in a spot where I just felt like I had no support system. I was still questioning things about my dad and his family. And my mom and my granny were just not really comforting me at all. My cousins were there for me. Alexis and Erica were there for me. My aunt was there for me. And they all understood. And it was a really grueling time. the day of his funeral, I actually, so it was like my, at the time, my dad's ex-fiance, who he was with at the time, her and her 2 daughters were staying at a hotel. I slept with them. I stayed the night at the hotel, sleepover, whatever, while my dad stayed at, I think it was my Papa Jair's house. And the next day, it was his funeral, and we got there late, and because everyone was waiting for us to get there before anybody had went to go see him. And when we walked in there, sorry, I'm starting to cry. Like revisiting this story makes me cry every single time. When I seen him laying in that casket, and I can't explain why this phenomenon went on, but I couldn't move. I was literally frozen in time. I wasn't even hesitating. I just could not bring myself to move up to that casket. And I think my dad, my dad's ex-fiance and her daughters were kind of like off to the side because it was the immediate family looking at the casket, and my dad like looked over at me and seen me standing with them, and he went over to me, he took my arm and led me closer to where the casket was, and I finally, that I was unstuck. And when I looked at his casket, everything in me just calmed down. Every bit of anxiousness I felt, every bit of just sadness, confusion, anger that I felt just vanished. And when I looked down at his casket, something in me just made me smile. I know this sounds really weird, but I looked down at his casket and he just looked like he was just at peace, and something in me just told me that it's peaceful, and even though I'm still crying about it to this day, something in me just said there's nothing wrong and everything was okay. And then after that, and of course for the longest time, I was just convinced for some reason that I just did not have anybody at all, and that I was just kind of alone in a way. But this is when I started having those thoughts. And this is also when I started struggling. And this is something I never tell anybody, but that's when I started struggling with alcohol. My mom would keep these, she had these bottles of cheap wine and stuff in there, and sometimes her friends would come over and they would bring more bottles of stuff, and it'd be left in the fridge of from New Year's and stuff like that. Anytime I could get alcohol, I would. And I never asked anybody to buy any for me, but anytime I could see any in the fridge, like the vodka in the fridge, I'd put that in sweet tea, I'd put it in grape juice, and drink it. The wine, I would drink the wine, and I put it back, and my mom somehow surprisingly never really noticed. I think she did, because she threw the bottle of vodka away. It wasn't in there anymore. So I think she did find out that I was kind of drinking out of it. And I wasn't getting absolutely stupid drunk. I was just getting enough to get a buzz off of it. Something to make me feel lighter. Because everything just felt so heavy at that time. And I know I can't really say that I was an alcoholic, but I did have a struggle where I just constantly fiend to feel lighter, to feel like a high almost. And sometimes I would have a little too much, but I just wanted to feel happy again and normal. And then I started seeing a therapist. And there are so many things that I never even told my therapist, but and I was I went to hospitals twice because, I would just slip up, and I would just sometimes just confess that, I would have plans to delete myself. And I went to the hospital twice about that. And then there was one night I think I was taking a bath because, you know, like taking baths and just self-care was one of my big coping mechanisms, and it still is to this day. Like, if I look good, I feel good, and that's one thing I learned. But anyway, there was one time I was taking a bath and just thinking about everything, and I just got so like out of it. I was just like, maybe this is the way to go. And I plunged myself into the water. It was very uncomfortable, and then I decided, oh, this isn't comfortable. Because for me, despite my thoughts and stuff, I didn't want to go out in a painful way. That's one thing about me, is the thing that stopped me from hurting myself and from, you know, oofing, is how scared I was of being hurt. And how terrified I was of cuts being too deep and things like that. So I could never bring myself to do that much, but I still did things. And there was also another night in the bathroom I was thinking about trying it again, or just doing something that would make it go by quicker. And as I was just thinking of a way to do that, my dog started doing this cry that I had never heard before. A howl, a cry, and it freaked me out. I didn't know what was going on. So I jumped out of the bathtub, I unplugged the drain, I threw my towel on, dried myself off, and got my pajamas on. And of course, while I'm making all this noise, he stopped crying. I think he just thought he was at the house by himself. But I opened the door and he's just sitting on the arm of the couch and he's just staring at me like, what? It was so funny. But there are countless nights throughout, especially throughout high school, where I just lay in my bed and I would just cry. And my dog would be there and he would just come curl up beside me, or he'd come and just lay right on top of me and just fall asleep. And looking at him, I was like, I need to be here. He needs me here. That's my dog. I can't just abandon him. Then, of course, I suffered through high school, and I don't want to go into too much detail about how and what happened when I was sexually assaulted, but it happened more than once throughout high school. And then finally I come to graduate high school, and God, that was like the best day of my life. I'm so happy to be out of there. High school made me miserable. Very miserable. And then I believe right after I graduated, I think it was, my great-grandmother on my dad's side of the family, she was in a nursing home for a while. Because, of course, you know, when you're old, your health gets down. And my dad picked me up from, you know, to go for our every other weekend. And he said, your great-grandma had a stroke. She's in the hospital. And we drove back to my grandma's house. We stayed with my grandma. And the next day, we went to go see her. And seeing someone you love, like, now this is, I'm telling you guys this before I go to what I'm about to say about my granny, because this is what just really, really changed me as well. I have had a lot of family deaths in my life. I never got to say a single goodbye to any of them. My pa, they wouldn't let me in the room with him. My great aunt, she passed away at her house, and I did get to see her once, but she couldn't even speak or eat or remember me, and just, I didn't know what to do. I had another, my Mima, my great-grandma, which was my grandma's mom, also passed away when I was really young, and of course when I was really young I just didn't really understand it. my great aunt too when I was in high school. And then my other aunt passed away at a really young age, which also kind of changed me. She was also in a nursing home. She suffered really bad from dementia and Parkinson's disease, and I went to see her one last time, and even though I had the opportunity, I didn't even say goodbye. I just looked at her, and I just seen her there sleeping with a bottle of water or cup of water beside her bed, and I had just never seen anybody in a state where they're not dead, but it looks like they could just stop breathing at any moment. But my great grandma is the only one I got to say goodbye to, and I also got to see her after it happened. Being in that hospital room and listening to my family as everyone sat there and made that hard decision of she wouldn't want us to keep her here. That conversation of she would just be suffering if we kept her here, and she wouldn't want this. She wouldn't do this to us. And we all lined up by her bed, and she couldn't say anything back. She's on a ventilator. They kept her on the pain meds because it was just so painful, because after they gave her CPR when she had a stroke, they broke her ribs and she was sick and she just had a lot going on, so she was in a lot of pain. We all got to say goodbye and we all left the room and we were in the waiting room, and that felt like an eternity. And then when they were finally done, my family that stayed behind, they came back to grab us and we all went back into the room. And they had her, my great-grandmother, just sitting upright. Her eyes closed, obviously, and I looked at her, and it's just like, even though it hurt deep down, it's just, again, there was just something in there in me that just made me feel okay, that said she's going to be fine, and that honestly made death seem more peaceful to me than anything. And then of course a couple years after this, or like a year after this, or actually no, just a couple months actually, this is 2023. Wait, no, when did I start? No, it's next year. Sorry, I actually, even though I was doing my YouTube videos, being consistent with YouTube, and again, I don't know why I did this, that's kind of dumb, I just decided, I'm going to get a full-time job where my mom, and of course, I never recorded with my mom in the house. If y'all know me, y'all know I never recorded when my mom was home because she would always interrupt me and just distract me, so blah. But anyway, because also, I never really told my family about my YouTube channel. Like, if I just committed to it and I wasn't stupid, I would have probably been a YouTuber by now, but it's fine. Minor setbacks that aren't so minor. But anyway, I started working full-time at my mom's job. Lost all my watch hours, everything. Wasn't uploading as much. I was making... my money was okay. But anyway, I was working there, and my granny's health started depleting over time. And my granny actually, while my family was struggling, while my dad was working 2 jobs, she was the one that took care of me. I always stayed at her house every single night. And she would help my mom take care of me. She would get me up for school. She'd make me breakfast, either oats, toaster strudels. I love toaster strudels. Oh my gosh. Anyway, my granny made my oats a specific way. She'd make them thick, not watery. She would put butter in them, and she'd push them to the side and pour just a little bit of milk on the side. And it was amazing. And also, she would boil hot water on the stove. She wouldn't, like pour water in it, put it in the microwave or anything like that. She made them amazing. Oh my god. Anyway, she made them the best. And later on, she wasn't able to do that. I used to go grocery shopping with her and my uncle. I'd go with my mom because they would go on a different date, and then I'd go with her and my uncle. I don't know why. I've been to Walmart like a billion times in my life, probably. And we'd go out to eat and stuff, and this was just a thing we did for years and years and years throughout my whole childhood until now. Even when my granny had surgeries that she had to remove both her big toes due to her diabetes, she started losing her balance and having balance problems. And one day she dropped a piece of chicken on the floor. She went to pick it up. And she has fallen multiple times as well, but this is the fall that broke her hip and completely turned my life upside down, because not only did she break her hip, they put surgery on it, and then she got sick right after the surgery to a point where she was barely eating, and she looked in the same condition my great-grandmother was in, and this terrified me. And I mean it when I tell you guys, I think my granny is literally made of titanium, because no matter what, there is nothing that has ever made her just permanently bedridden. Even though she spends most of her time in her bed, in her new hospital bed that's in the den in her house now, she never stays there. She always gets up on her wheelchair to sit up, and she'll go to the bathroom, she'll go into the kitchen, and she'll be bossing my mom around about how to make her breakfast and stuff. And I mean, she had, like, my granny, she has spent like committed decades of her life taking care of children, not just her own children and grandchildren and her great-grandchildren and her, well, great-grandchildren. I don't think she's taking care of much of them, but she took care of other people's kids too and would babysit them. And she just never got worn down. Never, ever. And of course, even though me and my granny sometimes don't get along, she has her views and her stubbornness, and she'll never like me coloring her hair. She'll never like my father. She will never like any of that. And she will never like the fact that I moved to North Carolina. But anyway, I still respect her and I still love her, because, oh my god, dedicating decades of your life to taking care of children, having, how many? Hold on, I gotta count. Having 6 kids and 7 grandkids. And now, wait for this one. And a grand total of 8 grandkids. Great-grandkids. Sorry. And she sees them all. She has held every single grandkid, great-grandkid. She's held all of them. But of course, my granny got into really bad physical shape. This was during the time me and my boyfriend first started dating. And at the time, my mom was constantly using and asking me for money, guilt-tripping me into giving her money, taking my credit cards and my debit cards while I'm sleeping to spend them. And whenever it was big amounts, she'd make it in payments and it would only half pay me back. And I got sick of it. And that's when I started making the plan to eventually move to North Carolina with my boyfriend and his parents and his family. I've definitely skipped a lot of lore here, and I'm honestly just sitting on the Genshin map watching this, but if I miss anything, I'll go back. And then, of course, around the time where my granny's in rehab, they're trying to help her get better because they had to do surgery on her broken hip. And this is about the time I got fired from my full-time employment. Oopsie. It's not funny. I lost all my savings. I lost everything. And then my mom just decided to run up my credit card. Okay. And I'm struggling. And I applied for my old job. I got it back. I was working as a server. And then I also started doing DoorDash after a while. And I just wasn't making enough. I mean, I barely had enough to buy my own food. My mom would not buy me anything to eat, and my boyfriend was there with me, and we were both practically starving, almost. And finally, I had braces at the time, and I was just like, I can't handle this anymore. We need to move. After I stayed here, where we're at right now, and we were door dashing over here to have money while we were over here. Well, no, actually, this was before I was doing DoorDash. This is when I was working at my old job, my part-time job, and I had money over here, and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna make a lot, like he's like, we'd make a lot more off of DoorDash over here, but he did Grubhub at the time, and we were like, doing Grubhub, and we were just walking around the town, just as a way to explore, and got a couple of orders, and I just decided that, and one day, Cracker Barrel was awful. They were scheduling me the worst hours and just making it impossible for me to make money. And so I thought DoorDash would be a good idea. I was like, I get to make my own hours off DoorDash, and a lot of people use it. I could make tons of money, because a lot of people actually make tons of money doing those delivery gigs and stuff. I was suffering doing that, especially because my car's so horrible on gas. We would use his car too. But, I mean, I was making about the same as I was at my other job, just less suffering. But anyway, I finally got over here. And this is when things finally started looking a little better for me, finally. Because whenever I was in that position where I was starving, didn't have money, my mom wasn't helping me or anything, I thought I was going to die. But I went down here. I got the job that I'm working at right now, and even though it doesn't pay that much, it pays me more than it pays me about the same, but it's steady, it's consistent pay, and it's a lot better than where I was at before, and I am a lot better than I was last year, and I acknowledge that. I have completed I set impossible goals for myself, but I think me hitting 1,000 subscribers, I never thought I would see 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, honestly. I never really thought I would live to see this day. But I'm so glad I did, and I'm so happy that I have 1,000 subscribers, that I'm at exactly 1,000 subscribers right now. I'm about to check again. I'm still at 1,000. Just right on the dot. I'm waiting for another person to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm like, please, please don't let me go under. I'm really hoping I don't go under. But this is where I am now. Still suffering with debt. Still trying to get money off of doing YouTube, becoming a YouTuber, getting money off of TikTok. I do TikToks more now. I've been trying to. That hasn't been working out for me, though. I haven't really gained a lot of followers from trying to post more consistently on TikTok, but I do have goals now, and I am meeting them, and reaching 1,000 subscribers was one of them, and thank you all so much for your support. And thank you to all my friends who are subscribed, who have helped me out on this journey, even to those who I am not friends with anymore. Thank you for being a part of this journey. And to my friends that I still have, to Thighs, who always willing to do a YouTube video with me whenever I want to play a game, to I think Thighs is actually the only friend I record with now, besides I don't really want to count Jesse, my boyfriend, because he kind of always he lives with me. He's not here right now because he's on a trip, but I thank you for sticking by me, and thank you to everyone who subscribed and who has been a part of this journey, and even thank you to the people who were a part of this journey but no longer are. But I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here without any of that. And I think that, I already did a my story thing where it was just my story of why I wanted to do YouTube and how I grew up around video games and how video games changed my life and stuff like that. So I didn't really include too much of that. This honestly was mostly just a trauma dump. But anyway, I think that about sums up my life story, even though I got a lot of stuff mixed around and I had to jump back and forth. I was trying to do like a timeline, but I can't do that. I don't talk like that. But I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my life story, my trauma. Oh wait, also, you know what? I do want to add some stuff to the end about my mental health and stuff, and that blah 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 blah. I think I already talked about this on my YouTube channel, but I just want to add this to the end just for more context of why I'm doing my life story. My life story, not just me being around YouTubers, my whole life and being inspired for them, but also my mental well-being and how gaming and watching YouTube videos helped my mental health a lot, and how a lot of YouTubers really inspired me, mostly IS Cupquake, but a lot of them inspired me in my mission on YouTube, on Roblox, on social media in general, was not just to make entertaining content, but to make hope core, I guess, to make positive content, to make to let people have something to look forward to, like a video of mine, whether I'm yapping about a drama or something like that, and to also not just entertain people, but to educate people on doing better as human beings and treating other human beings with kindness, and just bringing hope, because even though sometimes, especially in this day and age, it seems like we are going to get nowhere and that my generation isn't going to have a future, I believe that things can and always will turn for the better. I always believe that evil never wins. And I want other people to also have that hope and that belief that evil will never win, no matter what. And I also want to inspire people and make people happy, because being a YouTuber, like, even though this sounds dramatic, like, YouTubers have literally, like, people, like, just simply, like, YouTubers uploading on YouTube and just being kind people have actually legitimately, like, saved people from trying to do what I was trying to do. And it helped me stop me from doing what I was trying to do. My YouTubers were like, I has Cupquake, Flamingo, Corey, Kenshin. It's like, I want to be here. I want to watch their videos and stuff like that. It gave me something to look forward to when I was being miserable in high school and middle school every day. Like, their videos gave me something to look forward to. And I want to be able to do the same thing for other people, especially because, you know, no YouTuber is going to be around forever. But obviously, I'm not the next Flamingo or the next I has Cupquake or anything like that. But I want to be a YouTuber that my generation, even maybe older generations, younger generations can turn to watch, to have something to look forward to when they've had a rough day and things like that. Because that's what most of my middle school and high school was like, turning to gaming and YouTube just to tune out reality. Because sometimes you kind of just need to. And as I started, you know, obviously doing YouTube, seeing all the positive comments on my channel, seeing the growth of numbers of people who thought my content was entertaining enough, people thought my channel was worth it enough to leave a subscribe, to drop a like, and to leave a comment, it helped me in a way. It made me have something to look forward to, was checking my YouTube channel, seeing who made a new comment on my video, how many, you know, who liked my video, and who subscribed to my channel, and things like that. It gave me something to look forward to, a new thing to look forward to. And seeing people say that my content is entertaining, calling me underrated, and a lot of people, and also the chance that I have got to even sometimes teach people about things and certain subjects has just made me feel amazing. And I'm glad that I got this opportunity. And I think all 1,000 of you, even though some of you might be alt accounts, I thank all 1,000 of you for subscribing to this channel. And if I have more subscribers by now, or if you just subscribed from this video, thank you. And I think I am done yapping now, so I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, listening to this. Again, as always, if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment who your favorite YouTuber is. It doesn't have to be me, I won't get mad. But just comment your favorite YouTuber. Comment what you look forward to. Is it playing a Roblox game? Maybe logging on the Genshin Impact? Or maybe just coming onto YouTube to watch your favorite YouTuber, or even going on Twitch to watch your favorite streamer. But anyway, guys, that's it for now. Bye-bye!